Let's take a look back to the 2021 season real quick. This was the year that Cooper Kupp won the Triple Crown in the NFL and lots of people their fantasy football titles. I won 14 out of 20 leagues that I played in fantasy that year with Cooper Kupp on my team. The reason why he was on so many of my own teams and won so many leagues is because of his draft price. He was a 5th to 6th rounder in 2021. Now, of course, his draft price has never been that low since then because now he's a staple in your fantasy football teams. How awesome would it have been if someone told you that year going into the season that you need to draft him and he could win leagues over his teammate at the time, Allen Robinson? And that's the point of this video. This wide receiver we're talking about today is going in the 5th round of underdog drafts. He's going in between the 6th and 8th rounds of ESPN leagues right now. And on a revamped offense, his potential is through the roof in fantasy football. And that is why I believe that Jaxon Smith-Njigba could win leagues in 2023 fantasy football. Now, the first thing that I want to get into with Jaxon Smith-Njigba is how he graded out in my wide receiver prospect model. I developed this wide receiver prospect model several years ago and really unleashed it in my 2023 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. So if you want to see how other rookies stacked out, that link will be in the description below. But we're going to apply it to Jaxon Smith-Njigba right now today. So there's 4 things that I'm looking for with a wide receiver. So we're going to go through each one of them and how Jaxon Smith-Njigba scored. The first thing I am looking for is what was their breakout year? When did they break out in college and become an elite player at their team and at the college level? Jaxon Smith-Njigba was a sophomore year breakout. That is fantastic. I am either looking for a true freshman breakout, a redshirt freshman breakout, or a true sophomore breakout. Anywhere in between your first 2 years, fantastic. That shows us that age was not a factor. Now, the second thing I'm looking for is the most important thing of all. What was the film breakdown grade? The way I grade on film breakdowns is based on how many layers a wide receiver has to their game. So if he is a great separator, if he has great hands, if he's a great big play threat, if he's fast, if he does all of that stuff very consistently, that leads to a very high grade. Now on the other end, if he only has one of those skill sets and he doesn't do it as consistently, that leads us to a lower grade. Jaxon Smith-Njigba's film was some of the best I have seen in many, many years in college football. He got an A+ grade for me. He is absolutely excellent at everything you need. He's great at separating. He's great at changing direction. He has great hands. He's got great big play ability. Unbelievably fantastic and all done very, very consistently. Now, it's college target share is what I'm looking for next. This shows us here how important a wide receiver was to their offense in college and how that will translate to the NFL. So Jaxon Smith-Njigba had a 22.7% college target share. That's a B grade for me. It's not exactly what I'm looking for, but it is not bad at all. Usually if you're anywhere below 20%, that's not a very good thing, especially when you're looking to the NFL level. You probably won't be as important as you were in college to your team if you're below 20%. And the last thing I'm looking for is the NFL draft capital. Now, the importance of this is for one reason only. That is going to show us how short or long of a leash a player has at the NFL level. That's regardless of position. That's what we want to see with all of these rookie prospects in particular. Well, Jaxon Smith-Njigba was a first rounder, so he is going to have a very long leash. And essentially what that means is that if he sucks his first year, he's going to be fine his next year. He's still going to be a starter. But Jaxon Smith-Njigba is going to be great because now I need to get into the team fit and why I love this team fit so much, while other people probably didn't love it quite as much, but let me tell you why. So last year, Seattle was middle of the pack in the NFL as far as pass attempts go. They were 573 pass attempts in the entire season. That is good for 15th place in the NFL last season. So their passing offense, middle of the pack. But Geno Smith was very, very good last year. I think most of us remember that. Geno Smith had 4,282 passing yards, a 30-11 touchdown to interception ratio, and 69.8% completion percentage. That's ridiculous. That completion percentage from Geno Smith at that stage of his career, that's why the Seattle Seahawks brought him back and signed him to a new contract. So this is fantastic for us. We love to see a quarterback that a team just committed to get another weapon like Jaxon Smith-Njigba. So let's break down how everything really shook out for Seattle's passing offense last year. So there was obviously the two main pieces, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So DK Metcalf, here's what he ended up having in 2022. So DK Metcalf had 90 receptions for 1,048 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns on 141 targets. So now let's look at Tyler Lockett. He had 84 receptions for 1,033 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns on 117 targets. So we all know those two are going to continue to be very important pieces of this offense. So let's not even talk about messing with their volume yet. So where is Jaxon Smith-Njigba going to get this league-winning volume from? Well, when you take out DK and Tyler Lockett's production last year, there is still 315 targets and 2,201 receiving yards open. Now, obviously, they have a lot of returning pieces, so it's not like anyone's just leaving vacated targets wide open for business. But let's break that down right now. Let's look at what the Seattle Seahawks did from a passing perspective and who the rest of those guys on this list are. So when we move down the list here, we can see that Noah Fant was the 3rd most targeted guy on the team. Now, typically with 11 personnel or 3 wide receiver sets, a tight end is not going to be that important. So I think it's very fair to assess that Noah Fant is definitely going to lose some target share in this offense. I would not be surprised if he drops down to 40 to 30 targets in 2023, and his draft price on Underdog reflects that and what people think about what he will do this year. Now, Marquise Goodwin was the 3rd most targeted wide receiver. He is off the team. That is going to be wide open. So 42 targets right there open for business. Now, Will Dissly, Colby Parkinson, again, 2 tight ends here that stepped in at times for Noah Fant. I think that the tight end position is just going to drop in overall value as far as Seattle's passing offense goes. So let's drop those guys down some more. Kenneth Walker probably will stand to lose some targets this year with the addition of Zach Charbonnet. Travis Homer, DJ Dallas, you can count them out. D. Eskridge, you can count his targets mostly out. Same with Laquan Treadwell. So there's going to be quite a few targets here for Jaxon Smith-Njigba. And let's not forget this part, guys. With Jaxon Smith-Njigba, he had an absolutely outstanding sophomore season, as you can see on the screen. And that was all done with these guys in the wide receiver room. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Emeka Egbuka. That is an all-time wide receiver list. And yet, Jaxon Smith-Njigba was the piece that nobody could take their eyes off of. He was absolutely unbelievable that year. And that's why I love the team fit here, because he is already stepping into a situation where he has 2 Pro Bowl wide receivers right by his side. So he's not going to have to come in and take the load of a number 1 wide receiver, which we've never seen him do at the college level. He just gets to step right into that slot wide receiver role and play on the outside on occasion, and he's going to be fantastic in 11 personnel in the Seattle offense. Now, here's why I believe that he's going to be a league winner this year. There's 3 things that I think are going to happen for Seattle this year. So number 1, like I said, the tight end position, I believe, is going to just become way less valuable in the Seattle offense. I don't think that you're going to have Will Dissly, Colby Parkinson, and Noah Fant all get about 100 targets combined. You could throw a lot of those out the window. I'm sure Noah Fant will probably see 30 to 40 targets, but he's not going to see 60 plus targets again last year. That is because when you go to 11 personnel, that tight end is not as important to this passing offense. So Jaxon Smith-Njigba will come in and be way more important to this offense than any of those tight ends were last year. The second thing I think is going to happen is I believe that Tyler Lockett actually will become a little bit less important in this offense. That's because I believe Jaxon Smith-Njigba is just a better player. And that's no slight at all to Tyler Lockett. I love Tyler Lockett, and a lot of us remember him very fondly in fantasy football. He's been great since he stepped into the league. Now, I believe he's going to become less important to this offense because he is approaching 30, and he has no more guaranteed money on his contract. So theoretically, if Seattle wants to move on from him after this year, it's going to be a lot easier to do after this season. So that is a more speculative thing. That's how I believe it's going to break down, though, because Jaxon Smith-Njigba is simply too good to just leave on the sidelines in case one of those guys gets hurt. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, I believe, is going to come in and see more targets than Tyler Lockett. And the last thing I think is going to happen is Seattle's going to throw the ball more this year. They are going to get probably inside of the top 10 in the NFL as far as pass attempts go, because they have way more weapons. They have a much more stable offensive line that continues to rebuild, and now they have continuity with their guys already been there, and then adding on another fantastic weapon here with Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I love Jaxon Smith-Njigba this year. Notice how I didn't say that he will for sure win leagues, though. I don't think I could come out here and say that. What I am doing when I am calling out league winners this year is I am simply reading the tea leaves and trying to make educated guesses and predictions on what I believe. I believe Jaxon Smith-Njigba can win leagues, and there's another quarterback in the same conference that I believe can win you guys leagues and fantasy football this year too. So if you want to know who that guy is, click on this video right here.